Look at us. We're back with Anya Parampil. I love it. And she's one of the people that we love having on the show. She usually joins me on Friday. She wasn't available on Friday. She's here today, and everybody knows about Anya. And here we go. Boom. Anya Parampil. Anya is a journalist based in Washington, D.C. and a contributor of The Gray Zone. She has produced and reported several documentaries, including on-the-ground reports from the Korean Peninsula, Palestine, Venezuela, and Honduras. And now, ladies and gentlemen, my good friend Anya Parampil. Anya, what do you want to say about the king?
Well, okay, so you were asking about, apparently people during the live stream have been making references to the tampon.
Yes.
And I really didn't know about this until recently, thanks to my husband. He gave me a history lesson in Tampon Gate. But basically, I think people can't keep track of everything. It's hard because King Charles now, who's the King of England, the son of Queen Elizabeth, it's hard to keep track of everyone between Prince Andrew, Prince Charles, Prince William, Meghan Markle. So it goes Queen Elizabeth, King Charles, and then he's the father of Prince William and Prince Harry. And he's the one that was married to Princess Diana. King Charles, now who's king, was married to Princess Diana. She would be queen now, except for the fact that she was she died in a very odd car accident. But before that, he had an affair with Camilla Parker Bowles, who's now the Queen of England, I guess, or the princess, whatever she took on.
Yeah, I'm not sure what her title is, but fingers crossed. Go on.
But he had an affair with her. Somehow he cheated on Prince Diana with this whatever. And as part of their affair in the 90s, a phone conversation they had was leaked to the press. I think they had it in the late 80s, the phone conversation, but it was recorded. And he was talking about how he couldn't live without her. And she said something like, could he be reincarnated as her knickers? So that her knickers, because that's how British people talk, her pants. And he said, like, a tampon. He'd rather be reincarnated.
Oh.
So that's the reference. That's how weird the British royal family is that their dirty sex talk is some inbred hemophiliac is telling you he wants to be reincarnated as your tampon. Hot, right?
You know what? All I can think is he's a romantic.
I think that's like very similar to how you and Jimmy got together, right?
Oh!
He was like,
Oh God! All right.
That's the line every successful man uses. I want to be reincarnated as a tampon.
Well, all right. That is so. Well, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about that. I'm just. I can't even. All right, here we go. We're going to go to our first. I'm going to do AOC. You wanted to talk about AOC on GQ. Could we use more acronyms right now on the SOS? Here we go. Let me go ahead and start the first story here. Boom. Oh, look at her. Oh, look at her wear that power suit on the cover of GQ. I thought GQ was a man's magazine, but anyways, here we go. I took this excerpt from Be Latina, and it says 5 highlights from AOC's GQ magazine cover story, or would you say Cinco? So look, I'm not going to hit all of them, but here we go. AOC's only 32, but she's been talked about, criticized, and harassed. She's been through the most during their 3 years in office, currently in her second term, and as the midterm elections approach, she's letting everyone know that she has more work to do, and she isn't going anywhere. On the importance of the protests, during the interview, she talked about the importance of political leaders joining in on protests. All right. You mean like force the vote where you are MIA? She says that it creates a community and helps get the message across. It's really important for people to feel like their elected officials give a shit about them. How bold, saying shit on GQ. Not from on high, but from the same level. So, Anya, So here we have this young woman who hasn't been in serving the people for very long, and she highlights how it's important for people to protest. What are your thoughts about this particular political figure saying this?
Well, it's that we're going to read more quotes from the article, right?
Yep.
Because I don't want to spoil everything. So in response to just that tidbit, yeah, as you say, she's saying that the Democratic Party needs to show that they have people in the streets, or that they're not just above the electorate, but they actually have figures that are engaged in the grassroots. And that's exactly the purpose of AOC, is to give millennials, particularly left-wing or more millennials who view the Democratic Party as a stalwart of the establishment. AOC's role is to condition them into feeling as though, no, actually they have a home in the party because figures such as AOC are influential and accepted, and they're promoted in the media. But in reality, AOC wields very little influence. She hasn't personally accomplished anything in Congress. And actually, if you read that whole profile, which is mostly just long form quotes of her directly, you would have a pretty difficult time surmising what she actually as a politician stands for. So, I mean, that quote came up in the context of them, the journalist who wrote the profile, saying that he met her at the Supreme Court on the day that Roe v. Wade was overturned, and that he just, met her, and she was just very naturally and organically standing out there with the people. But you can just, if you really look at even that part of the story, it just feels like it's all very contrived and forced.
Well, yes, it certainly feels like it is a PR puff piece to make sure that we know who she is, and that we like her, and that she continues to stay visible so people can connect with her. And you're right, it's like nurturing this type of propaganda machine to see, isn't she likable? Isn't she out there doing things? Here's the next quote that they have on influencing social movement. I've always felt that the true power in the United States relies in mass movements and social movements, AOC told GQ. And there are many people who will not do something until they're forced, until their hand is absolutely and utterly forced, which she's not really going to do that ever. She's going to talk a big talk. She's going to be on Instagram. She's going to share some sort of like kind of like this communal feeling that she gives people on Instagram, but she's really not going to actually give you anything concrete, but she goes on to say that, and there are many people who will not do something until they're forced. Okay, whether that be for decisions or self-preservation or otherwise. And I think she understands what self-preservation means in the world of government. And so there have been many moments where I feel that like I have been part of influencing an outcome or a decision by the party. All right, hold on. Let me continue one more thing on different political powers and her current status. When asked if she believes she's powerful, AOC dissects the different power levels. There's the political power of public opinion. There's the political power of social movements. There's the political power of platform. And in those, always I feel powerful. But since I got here, literally day one, even before day one, I've experienced a lot of targeting diminishment from my party. And the pervasiveness of that diminishment, it was all encompassing at times. I feel a little more steady on my feet now, but would I say that I have the power to shift the elected federal Democratic Party? No. Thoughts?
Well, the first quote that you pull where she's saying that she felt diminished from day one, right? That was
yes.
From day one, she was given profiles in Vogue magazine and
on the cover of Rolling Stone.
Yeah, and she was interviewed on MSNBC. She definitely got a lot of airtime that most members of Congress don't. I mean, there's 538 delegates and on the national level. So she was definitely getting outsized attention considering her age, her lack of a record. And so for her to say that she was diminished It's not true. Like, she actually was given promotion, and then she claims that she doesn't have the power to move the party. Yeah, of course she doesn't. But then why are you constantly paying lip service to the party? Oh, and then oh no, the first quote was when she said that people have to be forced to act. But if you try to force her to act with mediatic political, like just basic political pressure, that's violence.
Yes, it is. Those words are violent, and she feels unsafe. And that's really like her go-to. It seems to always be like, you know, I'm strong, but I've gotten so many threats. All right. You know, I get it. You're vulnerable. You're in, you know, you're a leading voice in politics, but you know, it's just for show and demonstration. And certainly, you know, I don't wish ill upon anybody. You know, I don't want them to, you know, but I also think everybody has to remember to stop infantilizing these elected officials, that they have power, they have influence, and they choose not to use it on our behalf. You know? All right.
And I'm willing to bet that you're pulling quotes from Be Latina, which I assume is like a Latina aggregate site. I'm willing to bet that that article is actually trying to present her in a positive light.
Absolutely. You know,
and so this is part of what she is. It's that she's branded as Latina. She's the future of the party. She's supposed to be like giving a voice to people that are marginalized. But if you really read between the lines or know what she's doing, you understand that she's not living up to that expectation.
Oh, okay, here we go. On the likelihood of her running for president. All right, this is going to sum it up. There's 3 quick paragraphs. Here we go. Sometimes little girls will say, oh, I want you to be president, or things like that. It's very difficult for me to talk about it because it provokes a lot of inner conflict in me that I never want to tell a little girl what she can't do. You know what? It doesn't matter if it's a fucking little girl or a little boy. You know, it's, you know, there's this constancy of identifying and separating gender. You know, it seems. She told GQ, and I don't want to tell young people what is not possible. I've never been in the business of doing that. But at the same time, right? But I hold 2 contradictory things in mind. That's so funny to me. At the same time, one is just the relentless belief that anything is possible, she said. But at the same time, my experience here has given me a front row seat to how deeply and unconsciously, as well as consciously, so many people in the country hate women. Oh, God. No. Oh, geez. Come on. And they hate women of color. Okay. Why don't you stir more, you know, division in this country by this type of rhetoric? People ask me questions about the future, and realistically, I can't even tell you if I'm going to be alive in September. And that weighs very heavily on me. Oh, okay. All right. She continued. And it's not just the right wing. Misogyny transcends political ideology. Left, right, center. This grip of patriarchy affects all of us, not just women, men, as I mentioned before, but also ideologically. There's an extraordinary lack of self-awareness in so many places. Really? Lack of self-awareness. And so those are 2 very conflicting things. I admit sometimes believing that I live in a country that would never let it happen. Anya?
I just think it's so phony for women to take on the mantle of a role model for young girls and to exploit what it means to be a woman in power. She's simultaneously acting as though, first of all, as though she's entitled to even consider running for president when she has not accomplished anything as a legislator. So that already to me is just like, so the fact that she can even discuss the prospects of running for president as like a 30-year-old is a product of the fact that she is a woman of color who's adopted the establishment line. It's because she is a woman of color and that she's the most marketable woman of color that she's even in that position to begin with. And so she's benefiting from this sort of like, oh, woe is me, I'm a woman of color, while then saying that that is the root of everything that's against her. You could only be opposed to her if you're, first of all, look, one of the other crazy parts of her interview there was when she was talking about how she became engaged to her now fiance whatever, who she's been with since she was 19 at Boston University. But she says that she had misgivings or concerns about being in an intercultural relationship with this man when she's been with him for like 10 years or more. Girl, you're white.
Yes.
I'm white. I maybe have like immigrant background. I don't look white, but she tries to act. She's culturally acting. She hides behind this label, woman of color. She's not like what it means to be a woman of color. The woman of color experience, the Puerto Rican female experience in New York, is not the experience that AOC lived. And I wouldn't even be bringing that up. I would give her the benefit of the doubt, except for the fact that she constantly uses that label to shield herself from any criticism and exalts herself to like a position of saint because she's a woman of color. It's like, look, it's just phoniness.
You know what? You know what, Anya? She's a beautiful woman of color. And I just, like when you wanted to talk about AOC on the cover of GQ, it's just so, it is just like this weird culture that they're celebrating somebody with so few, if any, accomplishments. And it's just this brand. It's the AOC brand. And I liken it to, like you have this really cool new best friend who's a woman of color and she's sassy and you really like her and you can't wait to hang out with her, but she ghosts you all the time. And she's I'll be interested in what happens in the next term. Does she do anything for the people, other than making sure that the federal government grants some sort of monetary coverage for your funeral expenses if you died from COVID? I think she and Chuck Schumer were able to get that through.
Meaning Chuck Schumer was able to get that through.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yes.
Chuck Schumer needs the AOC to pass that kind of legislation. She can tack herself and she's a tool. And what you're saying it says something about our culture. Yes. The fact that she's on the cover of these magazines, that is why she is what she is, because that is an AOC. That's not GQ. That is the Democratic Party. That is the Democratic Party establishment using our culture to manipulate a younger generation into continuing to support the two-party establishment. And AOC is a fixture of that. She's a tool. She is the face of that. I mean, I went through it with Obama. That's when I gave up because I was infatuated in 2008. I was like, oh, this wonderful, intelligent Black man who is going to bury the legacy of racism in the United States and usher in this era of progressivism, give us healthcare. No. Once he betrayed all of that, I realized the lesson that we need to apply to people like AOC, which is that they're basically phony. Unless they actually put their self on the line, which she doesn't, then they're just phonies. Then they're only serving the purpose of the elite, of the party establishment.
And we all know that they could have done a lot, when Obama was in office. They could have done a lot for abortion rights. They chose not to, really.
They could have not build out the bank.
So there's a myriad of things that, anyways.
Hey, come catch one of our live stand-up shows. We'll be in Spokane, Tacoma, Virginia Beach, Richmond, Arlington, San Jose, Miami, West Palm Beach. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets and become a premium member while you're there.